Welcome, one and all, to the latest episode of Signals from Mars. I'm your host, Victor, and joining me today are Jeremy and Ed. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, thanks. Yeah, really good.
Doing good here, too.
Awesome. So we are here to talk about music that was released in December 2025. Yes, I know it is the end of January 2025, but we want to make sure that we got this month in there before we discussed our favorites of 2025. Joining us in the chat is Edgar Winterson. If there's anyone else checking us out, any familiars that we have, any patrons, please let us know. So December every year, there's always a condensed list of things that are released just because of the holidays. That said, Ed is the master of Metal Storm and other sites that have a much more diverse release schedule than the stuff that I'm used to seeing. Metal Storm over the years has helped me with picking out certain things, but then sometimes they have it's just filtered in a weird way, so it's sometimes hard to digest for me. But I'll just piggyback off of you, Ed. If there's anything that I'm missing out and anything that you think is worth our while to discuss, feel free to mention it along the way. And
yeah, I unfortunately don't have a lot to share with you this month. As you said, there's not a whole lot that gets released.
Yeah,
and
a lot of live compilations and re-releases and stuff like that. There's 2 weeks directly that there's nothing that was released, which is the 19th and the 26th of December.
You can tell from the Metal Storm site that Buckethead released about another 100 EPs and singles. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I swear, for several days, his releases were filling up the screen.
Yeah, wow.
I don't know what all he's up to, but he's a busy man.
Always a busy man, yeah. So, all right. So let's start out with December 5th. I have 2 releases. I have Phantoms of the Future and Gray Fox Conspiracy. And unfortunately, on Apple Music, I couldn't find Phantoms of the Future. I could only find Gray Fox Conspiracy, so I listened to that. Is there anything that I'm missing there, Ed? Is there anything else that you listened to for this first week in December?
Yeah, there was one death/thrash metal band called Nahum, Nahum.
Okay.
I think I'm pronouncing that right. Of course, Nahum was a minor prophet from the Hebrew Old Testament, so that might be where they got that name. I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about them. I know they're from Ostrava. Does that sound familiar? Ostrava.
Okay, somewhere in Scandinavia.
Somewhere in, yeah. But it's your basic death thrash metal album. You know, nothing spectacular, but I did end up listening to it and still am because the songs were really good. They seem to, the songwriting is keeping things interesting throughout the record. They kind of, pick up the energy in all the right spots to keep you in the song. But that's about all I have. If you're just looking for another death thrash metal record to add to your collection, you might want to check that one out.
Yeah, and I actually forgot to mention that Scorpions released Coming Home Live on December 5th as well. I thought it was the following week, but it was the 5th. Jeremy, for you, what did you listen to and what do you recommend here?
Yeah, well, Ostrava's actually in Czech Republic or Czechia. So
yeah, I was trying to
There we go.
It says, say that again. It's where
in Czech Republic.
Yeah, it's listed there, but I'm not too sure how to say it. My Kentucky tongue is feeling a bit insecure.
Yeah.
So thanks for the help. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Ostrava. Yeah, I don't know. But
Good band.
yeah, I listened to the 3 albums that you kind of mentioned so far. I listened to all 3. I listened to Forever Dark, Phantoms of the Future. This was kind of a quite an interesting sort of goth album, goth rock, I'd say. It's a cult German band. I didn't really know much about them. They were going in the 90s, apparently. I got married in the 90s. With our first daughter was born, so I wasn't so into metal in the early 90s. So maybe they were out then. They made a comeback. They disbanded for a while. It was just an interesting listen. I mean, let's face it, there weren't many albums to listen to, so it was something to get my ears around. I did listen to The Preacher Man by Grey Fox Conspiracy as well, partly because they're from South Wales.
Okay.
Which, as you know, is where Phil Campbell comes from as well. So yeah, that was interesting, is that there are 5-piece traditional sort of heavy rock stuff, bit of southern rock influence in there. So it's kind of in my ballpark, as you might expect. It was easy listening without being particularly great. I reckon in another week, another month, I would probably have passed it by. So, my only choice really for the month out the 3 would be the Scorpions live album, just because, it's Scorpions. We know their ages now. We know where they are in their career. It sounded fine. I think Klaus Meine does sound his age a little bit, a little bit forced occasionally. He's not got that excitement in his intonation anymore. But hey, they still play Big City Nights, and they still play Rock You Like a Hurricane and all those stuff that we like. And it was a nice collection of songs on there. If you think about it, Klaus Meine's going to be 78 this year. And Rudolf Schenker also 78 this year. So that, it's fantastic that they're still going. I still want to see them live because I think they're still a great live act, given their ages. So yeah, if you've not got a live album by Scorpions, why not just go out and buy it? Because you're going to get a late career sort of concert, which sounds fine.
Yeah, I listened to 2 of the 3. I couldn't find the Phantoms of the Future. But I listened to the Scorpions album a few times this week. Music is great, and I think you're a perfect assessment with regards to the vocals. There are points in time where you're listening to that, and it doesn't seem like they've overdubbed much, because there could have been like big, huge choruses and stuff like that. And the only song that really has like the gang vocals is Big City Nights. Outside of that, it's Big City Nights or Blackout. I forget. It's one of the 2. It's all the way at the end. And I thought, wow, they really could have touched this up if they wanted to, because Klaus's voice, as you've said, sounds like he's a 78-year-old man singing some of this stuff. Some of the stuff he's like mumbling as well. There's things where in the past they would have cleaned it up and whatnot. To me, that's kind of cool though, because as you're saying, they're not lying to anybody. And at the same time, do we want something that sounds exactly like Worldwide Live, where it sounds like it was recorded in the 80s, where they've played with his vocals and brought it up a few octaves and stuff like that? So I enjoy what they've done. I don't know that I'll listen to that album a whole heck of a lot. And it made me think also, because Scorpions, so they had Tokyo Tapes, Worldwide Live. Then they had an album in the 90s, which, depending on when you got it, you either got a hidden bonus track or not, with them doing trance. And I remember there was a big to-do with Eddie Trunk, because people were buying it and it wasn't on there. And people were like, no, we want this song on there. Where is it? And he would play it. It was like, no, it's on every release. And I bought it and I didn't have it either. So I forget what it was called. It was something like Still Stinging Live or something like that. I don't remember. And I've actually done exactly what I didn't want to do and open up all my browser tabs. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, for me, it's gonna be Scorpions as well. I mean, I thought the Gray Fox Conspiracy was okay, but I don't know, not something that I would readily, as you like to say, Jeremy, it was kind of like a pub band.
But by the way, just like to mention, as we're mentioning Scorpions, Francis Buchholz died today.
Yes,
so,
right.
We should honor him. Obviously he was in the band for quite a while and out of the band with Michael Schenker for a bit as well. So it's a shame we've lost another one.
Yeah, they didn't end on great terms. There was a lot of like nastiness back and forth between them when he left the band. And whatever happened, I mean, it's something that we're never going to really find out, as usual. There's multiple sides to a story. So anyway, Ed, what did you say your album was?
Nahum. And the name of the album, I don't even think I told you. It's called Old World Dead. It looks like they go back to about 2012 as far as major releases, but this is my first time hearing them. And they put out a solid record.
I don't think bands really care when you jump on the train, so long as you do.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and it's another reason why we're doing this in January as opposed to doing it, instead of not doing it. How about that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and with interviews and different things that I do, I at least my way of approaching things is that the albums are still out there, so you can always check them out at any point in time that you want to. If you're listening to this episode in mid-March, there's still going to be cool albums to check out.
Yeah. And it'll be fresh for you if it's the first time you're hearing it.
Absolutely.
The music. Yeah. So,
yeah. So, all right. So December 12th, we had releases from Lord of the Lost, Opus Neue Volume 2. Volume 3 is coming out in March, if I'm not mistaken. Volumes released Mirrored Touch, Glasgow Kiss released Down in Flames. Their live albums from Jimmy Jameson, 1998 Live Hits, and Graham Bonnet Band released Live in Hollywood, Again Live, or Lost in Hollywood, Again Live. And then there are reissues from Bring Me the Horizon, Pink Floyd, Static X, and Clutch. Ed, anything that we missed out here that you consider a worthy listen?
No, this was a empty week for me. There's one thing that came out on the 17th, so I'll just save that for the next week that we talk about. But nothing that week for me.
Okay.
That I liked.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I did listen to the Graham Bonnet Band live album. I actually thought it was pretty good. I've seen Graham Bonnet live where his vocals were pretty terrible, to be honest. I've seen him twice live where his vocals were terrible, but I thought it sounded good on this album. Now, obviously, we don't know how much is engineered for it, to put it on disc. It sounded as if he was probably playing, singing along to his own backing track, because you kind of heard it on one or two songs. You could hear his voice and then him kind of singing over the top. That's fine. If he needs to do it, he's a certain age, like they all are. I mean, he's 78 already, actually. So, he's pushing on a bit. The other thing about Graham Bonnet, of course, is that he always said in the past he didn't like heavy rock much, and he always liked, rock and roll and all the sort of early stuff that he used to do. So the fact that he's still doing it is a bonus. And there's some good songs on this album. You remember a lot of the Alcatraz stuff that he used to do, and the Schenker stuff. And there's some good tracks, and it's kind of like one of those albums that you'd play in the car on a long journey and just sing along to and kind of enjoy. So yeah, quite enjoyed it. But my album of the week is definitely going to Down in Flames by, as you would say, Victor, Glasgow Kiss, which is actually Glasgow Kiss.
I was going to say it's Glasgow.
That's the one. That's the one. I always rib you on your pronunciations of the British stuff. Your female-fronted band from Norway. They describe themselves as alt metal. I don't know. I'm not entirely certain what alt metal is really, but to me, it was just sort of 8 songs that had sort of 2 defining features for me. One was the lead singer, Charlotte Marlon Midtun. I thought she was really good for this kind of music, and it reminded me a lot of Sanhedrin, which is a band I've mentioned a few times in the past. That sort of type of music. The second defining feature for me had a very, very good underlying groove to it. The riffs had a real groove, and so that there's a lot of sort of classic rock metal riffs thrown into the mix there. I thought it was very tight. It had a lot of energy. And, I thought the songs were pretty good. I wanted to go back and listen to them again. So there's a little bit edgy as well at times. So, yeah, really enjoyed it. Thought it was a good album. Probably will give it another go at some point.
Okay. I listened to the Volumes Mirror Touch. Definitely a very modern sounding album. Your mix of gent prog metal with a little bit more commercial type stuff that a lot of these bands are dipping their toes into. Listen to that. And I listened to the Lord of the Lost Opus Neue Volume 2. That's going to be my album of the week. And I mean, if you've come to love Lord of the Lost, it's Lord of the Lost. I mean, there's really it's them experimenting a little, but it's still within their realm. I mean, you can definitely, anything with Chris Harm's vocals on it is going to sound like Lord of the Lost. Even his solo album that he released, which was more of like 80s synthwave stuff, still sounded like Lord of the Lost because he's got a very specific voice. So, Ed, you mentioned something that had come out on the 17th that you wanted to discuss. What is that?
Yeah, this is another death thrash metal. It's a 3-piece band. They've apparently been around for a while, formed in 2000, but they're from Japan.
Okay.
So it's a little something different. I got to impress my half Japanese wife with some Japanese death metal this month. Wow. So they have assumed the name of an ancient samurai warrior. So their name is Gatsu Tatsu Katsu. I don't know what that sounds like coming from a Kentucky boy, but it's something like that. And if you like Sepultura a lot and you like death metal, you would like this because, as I said, it's death. It's more on the death metal side with lots of thrash metal inspired riffs, but the vocals kind of remind me a bit of Sepultura. There's a lot of death metal bands that when I hear them, a lot of them will remind me of that kind of Sepultura vocal, with the death metal growl on top of it, and they're one of them. And I've enjoyed this album. I don't know anything they're saying because it's all in Japanese. You'd have to get on the internet to interpret. Now, the name of the record, though, by using Metal Encyclopedia, they translate it as being Immortality. So you can write that in your notes. Came out December 17th. And the songs have quite a bit of groove, which is always something that catches my attention. So that's another, death metal album that a little something different for you.
So it was Gatsu, Katsu, Datsu?
No, that's with a T. Tatsu.
Tatsu, okay. But the rest I got right.
Let me look it up here again. I lost my spot. Yeah, Gatsu, Tatsu, Katsu. So it's a G, and then T is in tango. The last one's K is in kilo.
Gotcha. All right. Who says we don't branch out with things?
Yeah, little Asian flair for everyone.
Yeah, there you go. So cool. So just recapping here, and we're doing this because next week we are doing our favorites of 2025. So if you're watching this live or listening to the replay, if you're listening to the audio version, this is being released on the day that we are recording the 2025 albums countdown. And the picks that we had here, December 5th, Ed picked Mayhem and Old World Dead. Jeremy and I picked Scorpions Coming Home Live. For the 12th, Jeremy picked Glasgow Kiss with Down in Flames. I picked Lord of Lost, Opus Noir, Volume 2. And then coming along on the 17th was Gatsu, Tatsu, Katsu with Immortality, which is what Ed had picked. So again, December is a short month, and you guys definitely have your work cut out for you to send us in your 10 favorite albums of the year. You can email those to signalsfrommars@signalsfrommars.com, or if you've reached out to me on social media, feel free to do that there as well. Been getting a lot of different comments on YouTube for the shorts that I've been doing, and Ed, you helped me out yesterday, and been getting
stirring up trouble again, huh?
Yeah, it's interesting because people were saying, "Oh, why don't you give more information?" And I'm like, "Well, this is kind of to, the incentive for you to check out the long form video and subscribe to the channel and all that. So like what we're talking about in the short. The short's great, and obviously it's giving Signals from Mars a ton of platform, a ton of traffic to the platform, but you've got that whole long form video that the three of us have, sat around listening to music and in our car, at home, in our headphones, through our speakers, and we're doing these episodes for you guys. And hopefully, again, they're little glimpses and pieces of things that stand out to you, and hopefully it gets you to not only check out the long form video, but also check out the bands in question. So that's ultimately the goal. I've said it a bunch of times where when people say to me, "Oh, my wife's going to kill me because I spent I don't know how much this weekend at the store picking up records that you guys were talking about," that to me is a thrill. That means that I'm doing my job. But
how's your wife doing, Jeremy? You've been sharing lots of new vinyl on the Facebook and such.
She's next door. I could bring her in.
Has she put any limitations on you yet?
Not yet. No, I do hide the odd one that comes through in the box, of course. But
you've been showing some nice stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's all collected over a period of time. Obviously, it's not all this week, but yeah, there's one more.
It's not all brand new stuff you just bought.
It's not all brand new. No, it's all over the past few years or whatever.
I thought you'd been shopping after Christmas or something.
No. It's just a lot of it's in the collection. But yeah, there's probably one more that I need to get this week. And as Victor was saying recently, the prices of vinyl is going up and up, which is not a good thing, really. So you've got to be You got to be careful what you select.
I don't know. The excuse was for a long time the bottleneck in the supply chain, but that's how many years ago at this point? I get that there are less big factories that are making vinyl, but for example, I have the Wolftooth album here. That was printed in Lithuania, and it was sent to me from there. So there's a lot of small like record plants around the world that are servicing, local acts and smaller acts and stuff like that. So, I mean, there are other ways of being able to print your albums up. I mean, like everything, we're at the mercy of these big corporations that are, the ones behind most of those factories and most of these labels. But, it's a shame because it just seems like it's skyrocketing. The prices are skyrocketing, and I don't get it. I looked up on a newsletter today where I received the pre-release for two old albums from a Spanish band that I'd seen live back in the day, and I have the albums on CD actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was kind of neat. Wow, I could get these on vinyl all these years later, and so on. And one's a double album, and it costs 26 euros. The other one is a single album, and it's 22. So when you're looking at like a little bit more than $25 and close to 30 for a double album, I think that's reasonably priced.
That is,
but some of these
if it's something you like,
some of these other albums that are coming out where it's in the 40s and 50s and way out there. The one that really caught my attention was the new Depeche Mode live album. It's 100 euros for the vinyl. I'm like,
wow.
Regardless.
So how much is that in dollars?
That's like $120.
Wow.
Yeah, that's mad.
That's a lot. I've paid $100 twice. I've paid 100 and over. One was years ago on Kickstarter, and I've never opened it. It's a Frankie Goes to Hollywood box set for their first album, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, which I absolutely love that album. And then there's the Creatures of the Night box set that's right over here. But
but those are box sets.
Yeah,
you're talking about.
They're box sets. I mean, Iron Maiden released, I forget if it was Book of Souls or Senjutsu, and it was about 100 because it was 4 vinyls. It's just it's too much. It's
especially if you don't spin it a lot, unless you're just doing it for collecting purposes. But I told you all about that Hope Deferred record,
right?
And this is the most I've ever spent on a single record. It's like you said, they're a small getting started band, so they're using probably an independent company, and they did do a pretty cool. I usually just like black vinyl, but this one is kind of like it's like a gravestone, kind of a slate gray color, and it's actually looks really cool. But I think I spent, after shipping, $45 to $50 on this. But I did it because of who it is. I told you about that band Embodiment.
Right.
And this is the guy from Embodiment. And I told you how Embodiment started off as a death metal band. And then they released an album on Solid State Records, which where they changed the vocals. That kind of black metal sounding vocals, and the music was a little more deathcore like. And they're kind of credited with influencing deathcore bands, even though they're kind of an unknown band. But man, and then Solid State put out a compilation where Embodiment had put out a new song, and the album that they had put out is a classic. 10 songs. It's great stuff all the way through. They put out a new single on this compilation, and it was even better. And it got all the Embodiment fans just really excited for what was about to come. It was just perfectly produced. It was probably the best song we'd ever heard. And then they pulled a total Metallica on everybody and completely switched their genre. It was crazy. The singer left, and we heard about that in the news. And people started saying that the new music was sounding more like the Deftones and things like that.
Okay.
And sure enough, when they released an album in 2000, it was completely different. It was just alternative metal, and just one of the biggest bummers for us, lovers of Embodiment that we'd ever experienced. And they did that to try to have a career, I think, because it was kind of hard making music in the Christian death, metalcore scene back then.
Right.
And they spent several years, probably until 2008 or so, just as this kind of alternative metal band. Now, that first album they put out, and Victor, I'm going to have to remember to send it to you because it's an album that I think you will really love.
Okay.
Luckily, the songwriting on that first album was so good that once I got over my bitter feelings of the changes, I ended up liking the album, and I still have it and enjoy it. But I've not really liked anything else they put out. So anyway, after they broke up, I told you the guitarist, he had started a new band called The Famine. He did that for a couple of years, put out a couple of records, and now he's got this band, Hope Deferred. And for me, this is the closest thing I'll ever have to Embodiment on vinyl.
Okay.
Because back then they weren't printing vinyl.
Right.
I think there may, if I do a Google search, there may have been a time where they released it and I missed it. So unless they repress that again someday, I'm never going to get that. But the guitarist from Embodiment, he crafted a guitar tone that is completely his. And when you hear it, it's different than all the other bands. It kind of reminds me of Wolf from Accept. How, he's playing Marshall and Gibson guitars, but he somehow crafted, especially on Balls to the Wall, a distortion that's just all Wolf Hoffman. And it's him when you hear it. And this Hope Deferred record, none of you guys would like it. It's only people that like, death metal and technical. It's very technical, lots of riffs, lots of drumming going on. There's not a lot of breakdowns. There's hardly no melody. So it's not something that a lot of you guys would like. But for all you guys that do like that kind of music, if you want to hear something that it's going to sound different, you're tired of everything else, and you want something that sounds a little bit different, even though it's the same kind of music, check out this Hope Deferred album. Because he's still, rocking with that same tone that he's always had. And it's nice to be able to put, a vinyl on my stereo here in my office and jam it that way. So that's probably a longer story than you all wanted to hear, but
no, that's fine.
I'm not going to give you a technical review of the music because that would bore you. But anyway, that's the most I've spent, and that was my reason why. There's a reason why I spent that much. But Best Buy, man, they hurt me. I had some reward points to use. And so I got on the website and I see that all the prices were up. I told you how all the records were now minimum $28, $29.
Right.
I also noticed that all the CD prices had gone up.
Yeah.
So I ended up settling on buying that, that indie pop band, Wet Leg.
Oh, right.
And I bought their first album. I love that record. But I spent $28.99 on it. Well, they shipped it to me with the $22.99 sticker still on the front, just to make it hurt a little bit more when I opened the box that I spent the extra $5. So yeah, I mean the prices. It's just getting to be. The only reason I bought that though is because I had rewards to spend on it. So with them raising these prices, I'm definitely buying less stuff. Going to be more selective.
Yeah.
And so they'll be getting probably less of my dollars that way. And like I said, even the CD prices, CDs that I used to buy for $12 are now back up to $18.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. Yeah, some CDs here are like sort of £20 for a CD, which is what the vinyl price was, a few years back. I think also if you wait a little with some albums, there's quite a lot of supply, so you can get them cheaper. And a few of the eBay sellers will sort of accept offers on new stuff. It's a question of how quickly you want it as well. I've done that with Megadeth on the previous album. The death, the dying, and the whatever. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So yeah, I got that one reasonably cheap because there was a lot of supply of it, and obviously, lot left over. So I'm thinking whether I might do the same with the new one. I do want to get hold of it. I want a copy of it, and I will play it. But so yeah, you're balancing all these issues, aren't you? Where how much you want the album. Is it a must buy? There are some out there that are still must buys because you really love every song on the album. There's some of those still out there, aren't there? And also you probably have to say to yourself, you might go out for a meal and you've had that meal and you won't see that meal again. But with an album, hey, you're going to see it again and again and again.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I'm wondering, now that you mentioned that, Jeremy, is Megadeth on Bandcamp?
Yeah.
They are, but the only thing on here is the live in Buenos Aires and Unplugged in Boston. So that seems to me that it's more of
By the way, while you're looking at that, there's another issue as well, which isn't just the price. It's and this applies to the new Megadeth album. There's so many different versions. Which one do you choose?
Right.
Yeah. I've seen a splatter version that looks great. I've seen the picture disc. There's 3 or 4 color versions, and then there's an HMV exclusive version. Et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on until there's about 7 or 8 versions of the same album, and it's very tricky sometimes to say which one do you fancy out of the lot. But hey, I guess it's the same as when you go and buy shampoo in the supermarket. There's about 30 versions out there. What do you say?
Yeah,
shampoo's a lot cheaper though.
That's true. That's true.
So you just mentioned the Wet Leg. How many albums did they have out?
Well, they got a second one now that they released last year.
Yeah, which
and that's a group, man. That first album they put out is like elite level stuff. I mean, the songwriting is so good. Yeah, it's obviously like a 2-girl band mainly. I mean, they've got some other people in the band, but
not anymore. Actually, now they're a 4-piece now.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. But I think the main songwriters are probably those 2 singers, right? And man, the music that they wrote on that first album, it sounds like they were born with it. It's just like songs they've had their whole life and just crafted perfectly by the time they recorded them. It's just it's like a 5-star record. So anticipating their second one, it was like, how are they going to live up to the first one? And so as usual, listening to the second one, it was hard for me, not to compare it to that one. And it was hard to enjoy as much as I probably could because of how good that first record was. But as the year has gone on, it's been growing on me more and more. And I am seeing their second one is a really good effort too. But it would be amazing if they could ever match the same level of songwriting they did on that first record.
Yeah, I have to check the first one out because I did check the new album out due to the fact that a bunch of different online music sites voted that the new Wet Leg album as the album of the year. So
I could see that. Yeah.
So I checked that out, and I mean,
Yeah, it's one that's growing on me, and I'm starting to enjoy a lot more.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know CPR is the one song which is being played a lot, and then there's another song that that I've been playing a lot recently. I don't remember the name of the song, but what caught my attention after they mentioned how it was the album of the year, um, was that she's playing an acrylic BC Rich bitch.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's something that I've always wanted to. Back in the 90s, I always thought that they were great. And I remember
Oh yeah.
when I interviewed Patrick Kennison, who is lead of Ford's guitarist, and he's also got a band called Heaven Below. He was in a band called the Union Underground. He used to play acrylic BC Riches all the time. And I almost picked one up once. And I was like, nah, it's too much. You know, I'll wait. And a lot of times those guitars, you wait and they're just gone.
Yeah.
So, that was another thing that I wanted to discuss was other things that we listened to this year that weren't necessarily metal albums. What are some other things that you guys checked out throughout this year that you think is worthy to mention that isn't exactly hard rock or metal? Ed, anything else besides Wet Leg?
Yeah, I was just going to give Jeremy a chance to talk there.
I'm not sure I listened to a hell of a lot that wasn't hard rock or metal, to be honest. I can't think of anything. I'm such a metalhead, such a rockhead.
I do. This is not. I have a couple of songs that I absolutely loved. That in one of them I sent to you last January. I got sick with something for a couple of weeks, and I'm on TikTok, and I started seeing a video clip from this gal named Eka Vandal.
Okay.
Her first name is ECCA, and it was I don't know if that's her name. She has a whole band behind her. I don't know if that's her name and they've named the band that as well or not. I have a hard time knowing exactly what their story is, but they had a song called "Cruising to Self-Soothe," and I tell you, I think it's one of the best rock songs that I've heard in years.
Okay.
I can't remember enjoying a rock song this much since maybe probably Weezer 10 years ago, or that Queens of the Stone Age song that's so popular that I'm forgetting the name of now.
No One Knows.
Yeah, it's that good. A song that'll get stuck in your head for hours. This one gets stuck in my head for days on end after I heard it. And it's just the song itself. It's kind of it's got a mix of sounds that take me back to like the late 80s and early 90s with both alternative and grungy Nirvana type sounds. So like in the verse, you'll hear these sounds in the guitar playing that makes you think of stuff like the Pixies almost. And then when she gets to the chorus, you get a raging Nirvana-like chorus. And the melodies are going up and down in ways that get stuck in your head. And it's got some very inspirational lyrics to it as well. Now, if I go to iTunes trying to learn more about them, they don't have a lot of music. And the other songs that I listen to are completely different. So like when I first heard this, I thought it was, like a alternative rock band of some sort. But a lot of the other songs it's like a whole another genre. So I'm guessing she just likes to shake things up and do different styles of music.
Okay.
Anybody out there wants to school us on Eka Vandal, please do. I'd like to learn more about him. And also, Jeremy, have you thought of anything yet?
Well, what only one that I did listen to actually in the last few weeks was the Robbie Williams album, and one of the reasons, of course, was because Tony Iommi was on there.
Right.
And also because my wife likes Robbie Williams, and we have actually seen him live together,
Okay.
and he was excellent. You know, he is Robbie. You know what you're going to get with him, and I thought the album was pretty good. I thought it was very typical of his stuff, a little bit old school, mix of songs, perfectly listenable if you like that sort of thing. So yeah, that was okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through my 2025 playlist here to see what kind of stood out that that I've in here that isn't exactly metal.
Hmm.
There's some things that are hard rock and metal. There's songs off of the last Lady Gaga album in here. There's I mean, for the most part, almost everything in here is as Mark would say, loud rock, because I'm seeing hardcore, I'm seeing, you know, stuff that even like Sick Puppy or Mammoth, which is still kind of radio rock, you know, it's still in the vein of what we
Hmm.
tend to discuss.
I listened to the Faces album, you know, the early Faces stuff. I think they released an album of just sort of stuff that never got released in the early days,
Oh, okay.
with Rod Stewart on and obviously Ronnie Wood.
Mhm.
And that was just interesting to hear. I mean, it was stuff that you wouldn't necessarily buy. It was kind of, you know, offcuts and studio outtakes and all that sort of stuff. But just very interesting to hear all that early stuff as they were crafting it and you know, building their name.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that, you know, that sort of thing could be of interest.
Yeah, I've got a lot of that last album by The Hives. I mean, The Hives is something that kind of crosses over because yes, it's rock, but just it's so energetic. There's just so many elements to it that isn't that far removed from, say, like the Helicopters or stuff that's more, you know, more marketed towards us. Whereas shit, the singer of The Hives was one of the possible replacements for Brian Johnson and AC/DC. So it ultimately went to Axl Rose. I've also got Twisted, which is they're more known as a hip hop band. They're kind of parallels with the Insane Clown Posse.
That's yes. You know, my friend's CD collection that I've been going through,
Uh-huh.
he had some Twisted CDs.
Okay.
So they've been around probably then.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
but I've never heard of them until then, and I'll lo and behold, you mentioned.
Yeah, their songs off of this last album of theirs that remind me of like in the 90s when Everlast, who was a member of House of Pain, put out some albums that had rap on it, but he kind of jumped on what Johnny Cash was doing at the time as well, where he got some pretty decent airplay in my area because it was acoustic music with him with some like sampled beats behind it, and with some of it was singing, some of it was him rapping over. And you know, with the advent of new metal and stuff like that, that became more accessible to classic rock. And because it's an acoustic guitar, you had other bands like I'm gonna say Tantric, but there was a band before them, Days of the New, which is where Tantric came from, which was kind of that acoustic music with, you know, different percussion instruments behind them.
Right.
I'm looking at what I listened to most this year, stuff that came out this year. And it's interesting. Looks like I listened to a lot of Killswitch Engage, The Halo Effect, King Witch, who I interviewed their singer, Laura Donnelly. I released that over the summer. Italian band Sick and Beautiful, Stick to Your Guns, Alien Weaponry, Brainstorm, Deftones. Brainstorm and Deftones are bands that I mentioned to Mark on, I think it was Talking Metal, when we talked about some releases that came out this year. It's kind of weird. I know that I listened to a lot of Spirit Box as well.
I'm thinking Arcade Fire had a record last year that I haven't been liking. Am I wrong about that?
Let's see. Arcade Fire. Their last album was, Pink Elephant, was released in May.
Yeah. Okay. So I can say if you're a Arcade Fire fan, which I am, that's a good album so far. The stuff that they released after Reflector, I have not liked at all.
Okay.
No interest in those records. They just didn't. I just did not like the songwriting. But this new one, I'm enjoying more. But I haven't listened to it enough that I could give you any good comments about it.
Okay.
But check it out if you like that band. Their album, The Suburbs, is one of my favorite, like, indie rock records ever.
Okay, cool. Ed, did you get to check the Megadeth out, or are you still waiting to do?
I started on that today.
Okay.
I'm kind of doing like I do with my Kerry King album and digesting it slowly.
Okay.
So I've sat with 4 of the songs, the first 4 songs, driving around in the car.
Okay.
And that'll be on our next review, right?
Yes.
January album. Okay. Yeah. So I've got the rest of the record to go through before I have anything to say about it.
Okay. No initial thoughts so far that we can compare to what you ultimately say for the January review.
Well, okay. Everyone's said great things about it, and I agree. So far in the 4 songs, I've not heard something better than what I've heard on the last album. But that doesn't mean what I'm hearing is not great so far. And the guitar soloing is just, like I said, magical. I think I'm starting to think Dave Mustaine has even gotten better, even though his hands are giving him trouble.
Right.
Because sometimes I'm hearing guitar solos that I think is the new guy, but I know they're going back and forth. I'm going to have to sit down with it, the notes sometime. And there's some things that I'm thinking, or that I can't tell if it's Dave or not, as if he's maybe taking a few lessons from this guy.
Yeah,
he might be too proud to hear somebody say that.
That's interesting because there were reviews that I read beforehand that said that Timu did the majority of the soloing, and I'm listening to the songs today. I'm like, that's Dave soloing. That's Dave soloing. There's definitely, I think Dave is soloing on every track. Is Timu soloing more than Dave on the tracks? Maybe.
I think he probably is.
Yeah, I think I would be impressed to have a Megadeth album that Dave isn't going to put his stamp all over, that he isn't going to be doing the soloing.
Another thing that helps me gauge the Megadeth record are songs on there that I might be excited enough to want to learn to play.
Mm-hmm.
And usually there's 2 or 3 that I enjoy learning to play. And I think I am excited maybe to learn how to play Tipping Point. Not guitar solos. I'm a rhythm guitar player here, I'm a wannabe guitar soloist. But So that's a good sign of, me liking that record. But what was the second? I just lost my thought on the second thing I was going to say about it. So continue on. I'll have to jump back in there.
Yeah, there's a song all the way at the end of the album that may be catchy, and you may want to.
Now I remember. I keep hearing people complaining about his voice. His voice sounds the same damn way it's always sounded.
Yeah.
There's nothing different about it.
Yeah.
I think people are just, they're, TikTok is starting to kind of piss me off with, it's a, for a while, okay, I'm not going to go on a tangent. I'm ready to, but I'm going to not do it. But talking about metal on TikTok is starting to be ruined for me. Because there's people just looking for stuff to complain about to make videos.
Right.
And so you're getting a lot of videos of people, wanting to complain about things on this album, like his vocals, that there's nothing different there to be complaining about. And so people are just making this stuff up. Now, like I said, I only heard 4 songs, and one of those songs is that I kept seeing TikTok videos of people complaining about I don't care about, X, Y, and Z, and acting like he sounded really cringe. His voice sounded cringe in that. And, we were all chatting about it before and, reminiscing on Peace Sells and songs, very similar to it. I mean, his voice actually sounds, better and more mature than it does on, Peace Sells. I mean, the Peace Sells, his voice is probably a little whinier than it is on this record.
Yeah.
So I think people are they're just looking for stuff to
attention,
tick you off about,
Yeah, they're looking for attention. Like I posted earlier today, where a lot of people are complaining about their Ride the Lightning cover. I think it sounds good. Is he doubling the vocals like Hetfield did on the original in parts? No, he's not doing that. But it's fucking Dave Mustaine. I mean, he's not going to sound like Bruce Dickinson all of a sudden. He's not going to.
Yeah.
Dave's voice has always been Dave's voice, and you either got it or you didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There's so many thrash bands specifically where you could look at Dave Mustaine, you could look at Blitz from Overkill, you could look at Zetro from Exodus, where it's an acquired.
That's hard to handle. So. Yeah.
To the voice, you either like it or you don't. I've always liked Mustaine's and Blitz's voice, and I've never really cared for Zetro's voice.
Me too.
So it's. Listen to on their last album, 40 years in, you're going to start to complain about his voice. Well, duh. What did he sound like a crooner on Killing Is My Business? Did he sound like Tom Jones on that album? Did he sound like Pavarotti on Countdown for Extinction? That all of a sudden it's become an issue? Get out.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually thought his voice sounded as least cringe as it ever had on those 4 songs that I heard. I don't know what people are talking about.
The album is possibly the best album they've released sonically. Everything sounds so clean on it.
And the album you can compare it to the most right off the bat is Endgame. It's got that same kind of distortion and tone, and the way they mix everything is very similar to that record there, except even better than that.
Yeah, I think it sounds to me. And we'll talk about this more next month. To me, I think it's for my taste, it's the most listenable album for me since United Abominations, which to me, United Abominations is one of my favorites by the band, but it's the last, in my opinion, the last great album they've released, where from beginning to end, it's the most consistent as far as the songs are concerned. That doesn't take anything away from Dystopia or The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead. I just think those albums
Yeah, I may have to agree with you on that when I think about it, that there are songs that I like better than the songs on United Abomination on the later records. But as a whole, just sitting down to listening to it, the whole record nonstop, you're right. That's probably one of the best ones,
Yeah,
songwriting wise.
I think that the previous two to this, there's a point with some of the songs where they're kind of going a Judas Priest route. When Halford came back to the fold, it just felt to me that they were lost for some time, where they were putting out albums where they were almost imitating themselves, where it was, okay, let's put out a song that sounds like Painkiller. Let's record another song that sounds like Living After Midnight. Like those first few albums all needed to have like touchstones that went back to something else. And it seemed like, to me, Dystopian, The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead, they needed to prove that they could still be a thrash band after Super Collider.
Which is fine with me.
Yeah. Which, again, I don't think that they're bad albums. I just think that this album, to me, overall, is better, because I think those other albums, they kind of worried too much about being over the top thrash, and kind of some of the other songs are just kind of okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, just my
I do have a lot more to say, but I'll save that for our review.
Yeah, that's fine.
Even just with the 4 songs, I have quite a bit to say. I'm excited to listen to the rest. Hopefully I'll have power to be able to listen to the rest. We got a big snowstorm starting tomorrow, and I'm right where we're going to have the heaviest snow, I think.
Well,
but luckily, I think the ice is supposed to be further south, and that's what causes you to lose power the most.
Well, let's hope that either one of two things, either that forces you to stay inside and listen to the album.
That's the plan.
Or what would happen to us is you would end up shoveling snow and listening to the latest album that you got. So
that's what I'll be doing when it's out snowing. It puts me in a mood for black metal. I'm not a huge black metal fan, but that's when I do get in the mood, when the snow is flying around. You feel like you're in one of those album covers,
So if anyone is in the Lexington area, if they drive by somebody who's shoveling snow and has Norwegian black metal face paint on, it's Ed Ferguson. So
that'd be a sight to see with this big honker of mine in the middle of the woods.
Oh man!
Hey, so here's something different.
Okay,
a movie, but it's a movie that's so heavily musically influenced. I gotta see if you all have ever heard it. So the movie actually is from 2020, but I didn't hear about it until last year, but at this time when I was sick.
Okay.
And it was TikTok. There was people were making videos with a song in the background that I was hearing, a very simple, like 2-chord song. And I heard this video a few times, and then the song got stuck in my brain for like 2 or 3 days. I couldn't get it out. So I looked it up and found out that it's a song called the Watermelon Song, or it's just called Watermelon.
Okay.
And the artist name is John and Jane Q. Public. I don't know exact. Now, that's not a band, I don't think. This comes from a movie.
Okay.
And so I discovered the movie through this TikTok video, trying to chase down where this song comes from. And it's called Dinner in America.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that or watched it?
No.
So, man, it's like a dark comedy, but it's super intense. It's about this wild punk rocker kid who's in all kinds of trouble for like starting fires. It starts off with him in some kind of hospital taking drugs, for money, for scientific reasons, and he ends up meeting this extremely odd girl who is actually his biggest fan. He's actually plays in a hardcore band.
Okay.
And so it's this intense movie of this guy trying to hide from the police. And then in hiding from the police, he runs into his this girl who has a huge crush on him. She's one of the strangest. It's like these two extremely strange characters getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just tons of intense hardcore and punk music throughout the movie. But there's this one spot in the movie where they break into this home and there's a bunch of music equipment. It's actually his parents' house that he's been kicked out of. And the two of them start playing this song that's called Watermelon. And of course, in the movie, they're just kind of making it up on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just this real simple tune that is fun to listen to. And I had it on my iTunes all year, and I've watched the movie 2 or 3 times. So if you just want a fun musical based kind of, like I said, it's a dark comedy movie to watch, check it out. You might like it, especially if you kind of like hardcore music and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it was called
Dinner in America, or it's Dinner. Is that diner or dinner?
That's dinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I saw it on Hulu. If you have that, I think it's on there. But
yeah, Hulu for me is Disney Plus because it's owned by Disney. But then licensing varies from country to country, so it could be on there, it could be on something else. I'll check it out.
91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
There you go.
And especially if you're the kind of person that's grown up feeling out of place and insecure and odd and strange and all, you'll definitely connect with these characters. Yeah.
Okay. So next week we're going to be doing the 2025 albums countdown. There are a bunch of interviews that have already been recorded that will be coming out throughout February. I got to figure out how we're going to schedule everything because we're going to have a January albums episode as well. But so far, you guys can look forward to interviews from bands like Greyhawk, Struck a Nerve, Wilhelm. I released Struck a Nerve already. A Wilhelm Scream, Hoaxed, and next week I'm going to be talking to members of the band Tail Gunner. So,
great.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gotten back into the groove of doing interviews, and I've got PR people that are trying to get me to interview a lot more artists. Again, I think those shorts are helping out because I'm getting a ton of traffic that way, and so be it. I mean, we can mix up interviews with this type of music discussion, which is, for me, is always fun to do.
Yeah.
Awesome. So send your votes in if you want to vote for your favorites of 2025. As usual, even if it isn't 10 albums, send us 3 albums, send us 1 album, send us 5, whatever it is, I'll work with. But either way, it'll be a fun episode for you guys to check out, and hope that you're in the chat to join us next Friday. Any parting words, Ed or Jeremy?
Just that there's been some great albums this year again, and it's been wonderful to hear such great music month after month, week after week. Let's hope it carries on in 2026.
It's
yeah.
Go ahead, Ed.
2026 has started off kind of slow, actually. I don't think I've liked anything yet that much besides the Megadeth, and of course I'm listening to the Creator too. But it's been kind of lightweight so far. But I'll keep listening, and if you can't find me next week, everybody come dig me out of the snow.
Well, hopefully, when we do the January albums episode, you'll change your tune and you'll find some things that have stood out.
We got one more week left, so we'll see. I just added a new list of stuff today that came out today.
Okay. well, hopefully something catches your ear.
I also add everything that you have on the spreadsheet too, in case there's, something else there that I find. So I'm going through it all the best I can.
That's all we can ask, Ed. Awesome. So on that note, I do want to thank Ed and Jeremy for joining me. I want to thank Edgar for joining me in the chat, joining us in the chat today. There are a few other people that have joined us tonight also. I don't know if Tony, if you're there as you usually are, hopefully all is well on your side of the world, on your side of the country, actually. And that's basically it. We will see you next time right here on Signals from Mars. See if I said that right. I don't know why I keep thinking I'm going to spout out the old name. But anyway, thank you guys. We'll see you next time on Signals from Mars. See you, folks.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.